Another loaded show coming your way on the San Francisco 49ers Report. I'm Chase Sr. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. As for what we're getting into on today's program, 49ers defensive end and defensive tackle Charles Omenihu arrested. We'll pass along the latest updates on that. Could Jimmy Garoppolo be active this week against the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game? A health update on that broken ankle. And at the end of the show, stay tuned for it. There is legendary talent on both sidelines for Philadelphia and San Francisco. We're going to take a look at the top matchups to watch. First, though, I'm going to challenge you, the faithful, the Niner Empire, and the Niner Gang. Can we get the 77,000 subscribers on this video alone? We're 170 people away. We're on the road to 80,000. If San Francisco makes it to the Super Bowl, I want to get to 80K by the time that this game comes around in Glendale, Arizona. So if you're looking for daily content that keeps you in the know, informed and entertained on all things Niners year-round with daily videos, lock us in and subscribe. As for the latest on Charles Omenihu, this news came down this morning here on Tuesday that according to San Jose police, he was arrested on a charge of misdemeanor domestic violence. His girlfriend told police and alleges that she was pushed to the ground, but when police looked at Charles Omenihu's girlfriend, they spotted, according to the police report, again, according to the police report, these are the facts that we have from police, quote, no visible physical injuries, and Charles Omenihu's girlfriend failed to go through a medical examination and get checked out medically. The 49ers are aware of this situation for a guy who is a quality depth and rotational defensive end and defensive tackle along this Niners defensive line. They said this morning in light of the news, quote, we are aware of the matter involving Charles Omenihu, and we are in the process of gathering further information. And for Omenihu, a career-high 4.5 sacks this year for this Niners defense, a very good backup player who I think has earned himself a lot of money with the way that he was able to turn it on last year after that trade deadline acquisition, really started to get a great grasp of this defense later in the year. He was spectacular against the Cowboys a year ago in the wild card round, then against Seattle in the wild card round. He had 2.5 sacks and a fumble forced. So Omenihu, kind of a game breaker and a game changer, and if he's not able to give it a go for San Francisco, obviously this news has to be taken seriously. That does hit their depth. 4.5 sacks this year, as I said, 54 total pressures, 39 hurries, and 10 quarterback hits. Those numbers really good for a rotational guy who doesn't even start. And Omenihu has certainly been a valuable rotation piece along this Niners defensive line. We will continue to monitor the status with him, and we'll see if he's able to give it a go. If not, 49ers should still be able to survive, but the problem is that the Eagles' offensive line might be the best in football. San Francisco's defensive line is still very good. There's no question about that. Samson Ebukam had another good game against Dallas. Javon Kinlaw was kind of in the witness protection program, but honestly, Kevin Givens, Jordan Willis have been playing good, so that helps you absorb the blow of Kinlaw being inconsistent as he continues to just battle through those knee injuries. Eric Armstead has been playing like one of the best defensive tackles in the sport, and Nick Bosa is probably the defensive player of the year. Omenihu, I like him because he can play edge, he can play defensive tackle, but again, when you have guys like Kerry Hyder Jr., Drake Jackson, Kevin Givens, Jordan Willis, T.Y. McGill as backups, you can help make up for him potentially being out. Again, we'll keep you in the know with all things on that front. As for the latest on Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan said on Monday, quote, he would be very surprised if Garoppolo was active on Sunday. But this comes a couple of days after Shanahan had said that he might have a chance to play. But then he later kind of clarified that and had an update saying there's a better chance that Garoppolo would be available for the Super Bowl, which would be in a couple of weeks if San Francisco is able to advance with a win over Philadelphia. Garoppolo has not played since breaking his ankle against the Miami Dolphins on December 4th. That opened up an opportunity for big cock Brock Purdy to really show up, show out, and play some excellent football. As for what Garoppolo did in what could be his final season in the Bay Area, completed 67% of his passes, more than 2,400 yards, 16 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. With him, you know what you have. There's a ceiling on him. And with Brock Purdy, the limitations for this offense haven't been as glaring. And Purdy has ended up playing spectacular ball, 7-0 as a starter, not turning the football over. Does have to play better against Philadelphia than he did against Dallas. But I think that Purdy played better than Garoppolo did this year. which is why I posed this question for you, and we want to hear from you down in the comment section. Who is better this year? BP for Brock Purdy, JG for Jimmy Garoppolo. Let us know down below in the comment section. Be sure to join that conversation. Treat it like a KNBR Sports Talk Radio call-in line or another one of the great radio stations there in the Bay. Coming up next on today's show, the key matchups to watch for in this loaded NFC title game, and there are a plethora of them all across the board. First, though, we want to welcome a brand new sponsor to the 49ers Report and here at Chat Sports, and it is Athletic Greens, a sponsor that I really care about, and it's become a daily element of my daily routine. 49ers Report. Happy to bring on AG1. I take it every day, and you can get comprehensive and convenient daily nutrition at athleticgreens.com/chatsports. I gave AG1 a try a while back because given my work schedule at Chat Sports combined with my training regimen, as I'm on a mission to run every single day for a year straight and beyond, I'm up to almost 250 straight days right now, I wanted to find ways to have sustained energy and to stay healthy by keeping my immune system strong so that I can strive toward my professional work life and personal fitness goals, but also my body strong as well. I take AG1 every morning as part of my routine, and it sets the table for the rest of my day. It's helped improve my gut health. It's boosted my energy. It supports my immune system and helps me recover since I'm putting such a toll on my body. About to hit the gym after today's show. If I've already told you about kind of my health preferences since my mom passed you away, bear with me because I do try to steer clear of chemicals and harsh ingredients because of my mom's passing from cancer, which is also why I love AG1 and its 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients. I just mix one small scoop of AG1 with water, and I drink it first thing in the morning or before and after my workouts. I also love that something that's this good for you in prioritizing your health and wellness. One life, one body, that's the motto, costs less than $3 a day. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you, the Niner Gang, a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So head to athleticgreens.com/chatsports. That's athleticgreens.com/chatsports. Check it out. That link is available in the comment section as well as the description of this video, and we appreciate them for hopping on board here, the 49ers Report. To the best matchups to watch between San Francisco and Philadelphia. Let's start off in the trenches. Eagles offensive line against the Niners defensive line. This features one of the best position groups offensively in the trenches for Philly in the NFL against one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. Every member of this Eagles offensive line named to an All-Pro team was a Pro Bowler or is a Pro Bowl alternate. Jordan Mailata, fascinating story with him, former 7th-round pick who, when he got drafted, had never played organized football. He was a rugby player in Australia, Aussie, oi, 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 and he's developed into a great left tackle. Landon Dickerson, the Alabama product, is also very good. Jason Kelsey, one of the best centers of all time. Isaac Seumalo, a very good right guard who's set to get paid in free agency, and right tackle Lane Johnson, one of the best to ever do it at right tackle, as Trent Williams, probably the best left tackle in the game. This front 5 against the Niners' front 4, going to be a terrific matchup. Samson Ebukam, a very solid player. Javon Kinlaw, need more from you, but Jordan Willis and Kevin Givens have been playing well. So too is Kerry Hyder Jr. Eric Armstead, one of the more disruptive defensive tackles in the game, especially since coming off that injury. Don't get blown away by the sack numbers by any means when you look at his stat sheet, but watch the games and you'll see that he's a game wrecker. And of course with Nick Bosa, probably the defensive player of the year, a career high 18.5 sacks, was tremendous for San Francisco this year. And of course we'll continue to see what happens with Charles Omenihu. That Eagles offensive line, it's great because of all that high-level talent. They also have a lot of depth. Where I'm a little bit concerned with San Francisco, they have rotational pieces along that defensive line, but are they going to be able to stay fresh, and is their depth going to take a hit if Omenihu can't play? That Eagles offensive line paved open running lanes for Philadelphia to run for nearly 270 yards in the divisional round against the New York Giants, but for San Francisco, they haven't given up a 100-yard rusher since Justin Fields in Week 1 when they played Chicago and lost. But Philly is loaded at that running back spot. And, of course, Jalen Hurts can run the rock as well. Gainwell against the Giants, more than 100 rushing yards. Miles Sanders with 90. Boston Scott with only 32. But another touchdown against New York and 5.3 yards per carry. Everybody is making a big deal about the Niners' sack production here and how this Eagles offensive line is going to be able to control the line of scrimmage just because there's such a big discrepancy between Nick Bosa and Samson Ebukam. This Niners defensive line, with the way that they have edge rushers who can play D tackle and D tackles who can play edge rushers, that's how they exploit some of the weaknesses. And D'Amico Ryans, at timely times, does a great job of really dialing up the blitzes when they need to get pressure on the opposing quarterback. But with this defensive line here, disciplined pass rush lanes are going to be very, very important. Now, I've had a lot of people who have slid in my DMs on Twitter and Instagram. Give me a follow at Chase_Senior, by the way. And I've seen a lot of people in the comments section kind of pitting this matchup as a matchup between Silicon Valley and South Philly, a.k.a. Broad Street. So who has the edge here? CA for California, PA for Philly. Let us know. Have some fun with it down in the comments section. We stick with the trenches. Yesterday we talked about how this 49ers offensive line did not fare well against the Cowboys, and the Cowboys, a very physical defensive front, so too is the Eagles' defensive line. Trent Williams is one of the best left tackles of all time. He might be the best. He had Micah Parsons on clamps on Sunday. A impressive and flawless performance. But outside of that, Aaron Banks kind of struggled for the first time this year. In the regular season, he didn't give up a sack on the quarterback, but gave up a couple of pressures in this game against Dallas. Jake Brendel has been a pleasant surprise, but how is he going to fare going up against Javon Hargrave and Fletcher Cox, who we're about to talk about? Spencer Burford, the right guard, a very impressive and solid rookie season. But again, this is an offensive line for Philly that hasn't gone up against a defensive line in Philadelphia that's chock full with these great pass rushers. And Mike McGlinchey, who is thrown to the ground by Micah Parsons, is going to have to play better against the likes of Brandon Graham and Hassan Reddick. Why is that? Well, Philadelphia led the NFL this year with 70 sacks. And to put that in perspective, the next best team was the Kansas City Chiefs. They had 15 less sacks than Philadelphia. Since sacks started getting recorded in the early 1980s, Philadelphia, the first team to have 4 players with double-digit sack numbers. Hassan Reddick, Javon Hargrave, who I talked about, Fletcher Cox, 2 very good defensive and nose tackles, depending on if the Eagles have a 3-man front or a 4-man front. They run a little bit of both because Reddick is a stand-up pass rusher. Josh Sweat, also a very good player. And for Hassan Reddick, combined with the playoff game against New York, he now has 17.5 sacks in 18 games this year. His 16 sacks in the regular season, second only to Nick Bosa. 40 hurries, 26 quarterback hits, 5 forced fumbles. He lines up against Mike McGlinchey. He has an incredible first step. McGlinchey has to be ready for that, and the Eagles, like the Niners, like to interchange those members along the defensive line and move them around a little bit. Next matchup to watch, it is Brandon Aiyuk, who for the first time in his 3-year career surpassed the 1,000-yard mark against James Bradberry. Now, James Bradberry and Darius Slay are the top 2 cornerbacks for the Eagles. Both are very, very good. But I imagine that Aiyuk is going to be matched up a lot against James Bradberry. But Bradberry could go up against Debo. The reason for that is because Aiyuk and Debo are used in this offensive scheme by Kyle Shanahan to play inside in the slot, but also outside. So Aiyuk against Bradberry, Aiyuk against Slay, Debo against Bradberry, Debo against Slay, interchanging of matchups in this football game. And speaking of that, you look at the numbers here. I talked yesterday also about how the Eagles are going to have to do a better job of tackling in space. Jonathan Gannon, their defensive coordinator, did talk about that here on Tuesday, saying Kyle Shanahan does such a great job of drawing up the scheme, allowing Aiyuk, Kittle, Debo Samuel to catch the ball with open real estate to try to pick up yards after the catch and make guys miss. So the cornerbacks for Philadelphia against the wide receivers for San Francisco, another one of the big matchups in this game. As for Bradberry, he was released by New York and ended up having a very good season for the Birds. 17 pass breakups, 3 interceptions. He had one against Daniel Jones on a play that he read the entire way, kind of like what Jimmy Ward did with Dak Prescott in baiting him into that pick on Sunday. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 74.1, but a coverage grade of 80.2 and a passer rating allowed of 54.2. That is very good. So who do you think wins this matchup when they're matched up against one another? Brandon Aiyuk, type LGB for Let's Go Brandon. Or is it James Bradberry, type JB? Once again, join the conversation down below in the comment section. As for the Eagles wide receivers, they deserve some recognition as well because they're very good, and the 49ers corners in Mooney, Ward, and Lenoir have been a little bit shaky. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are really, really good, and you've been impressed with what you've seen from the Niners and their receiving core. How about what the Eagles did this year with Jalen Hurts slinging the rock? A.J. Brown, nearly 1,500 receiving yards. I'll continue to say he's the closest thing to Terrell Owens that we've seen, with him being physical in stature, but also having the pull-away speed. He's like Debo in the sense where he's really physical to bring down and will run you over and then laugh on his way to pay dirt. 11 touchdowns. And Devontae Smith, a very quick and clean route runner who's kind of a skinnier version of Brandon Aiyuk. It's a decent player comp. And then Dallas Goedert, an excellent tight end for Philadelphia, where this Niners linebacking core is certainly going to have their hands full with him, as well as Jimmy Ward out of the slot. How about this matchup too? This matchup that we want to talk about next is one of the best matchups that you will ever see. I see Rick Nyers in the chat, by the way. We got the Rick Nyers minor helmet. We're adding stickers to it today to fill it out. Nick Bosa against Lane Johnson. Nick Bosa, potential future Hall of Famer, the best pure edge rusher in the sport right now, against Lane Johnson, the best right tackle in the sport, who is dealing with an abductor injury that will need offseason surgery. Let's first take a look at Bosa's numbers to see how he stacks up against Lane Johnson. I'm telling you, this is a matchup that in 20 years we might be talking about. If you're an overall football nerd who loves watching an elite edge rusher against a great pass protector in Lane Johnson, who's also very good in the run and is a freak athlete. Lane Johnson used to play quarterback at JUCO and was a tight end at Oklahoma before going to tackle. For Bosa in 2022, 18.5 sacks. That was number one in the NFL. He had 90 pressures, according to Pro Football Focus, 48 quarterback hits as he continues to get home on the quarterback. An overall Pro Football Focus grade, it doesn't get better than this, folks, of 90.9. Same grade for his pass rush. That is just upper echelon, 1 percentile elite. Run defense grade of 81.1, so don't let his pass rushing fool you. He's very good against the ground, 39 stops, and for me, he is my front runner to win Defensive Player of the Year. As for Lane Johnson, missed the last 2 games in the regular season because of that core muscle injury. But before that, fantastic. This is why Lane at right tackle, Trent Williams at left tackle were first-team All-Pros, according to the Associated Press. 972 total snaps for Lane Johnson, 0 sacks allowed, 0 hits allowed, and only 9 pressures in 551 pass blocking snaps. That's even more impressive considering that Jalen Hurts is a mobile quarterback. Who do you think wins in the trenches? Another great question cooked up for the faithful. Is it Bosa, the Bear, type NB? Is it the Lane Train and Lane Johnson, type LJ? Once again, sound off down below. We have more matchups that we want to talk about and more things to monitor here that I just want to continue to get to, and it goes to show you just the level of talent on both sides of the ball and on both sidelines for these two organizations. San Francisco has to have disciplined pass rush lanes against Jalen Hurts. They have been burnt by mobile quarterbacks this year. Justin Fields, Marcus Mariota, Patrick Mahomes. They've fared very well against pocket quarterbacks who are kind of restricted in between the tackle box. Jalen Hurts is not that. Another matchup, now to the coaching sideline. Kyle Shanahan against Jonathan Gannon. 49ers offense during their 12-game winning streak, averaging more than 30 points per game. Jonathan Gannon likes to sit back in quarters and not blitz. They only send 4. So if the 49ers offensive line can hold up in pass protection against the Eagles' 4-man front, I do believe that Brock Purdy is going to have some time to really distribute the football. Kyle Shanahan can get creative with opening guys up with route concepts, but also in the ground game. Philadelphia doesn't really fare all that well. The 49ers, the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL, taking on an Eagles rushing defense that ranks 15th in the NFL. Philadelphia can be susceptible to giving up a lot of rushing yards. They were great against New York and Saquon Barkley last week, but that rushing attack, nowhere close to what Kyle Shanahan can scheme up. Christian McCaffrey had nearly 2,000 all-purpose yards this year. He is one of the more unique weapons in the history of the NFL, both at wide receiver and running back. His footwork, his vision, his patience, his ability after the catch, all of them really special qualities. That's why he's a two-time All-Pro this year, 746 rushing yards with 464 receiving yards. I think that if he stays healthy, he could play in the NFL for a really long time just because of what he's able to do through the air and on the ground. And for Elijah Mitchell, played in 5 games this year, 15 regular season games, though. He has about 1,200 rushing yards, one of the best backup running backs in the NFL, and has looked good in the last couple of games since coming off of injury. Another matchup, 49ers linebackers against the Eagles system. This is an Eagles system that is a special one, and it's yielded terrific results, with Jalen Hurts being an MVP candidate, the aforementioned A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith having monster seasons so far this year, and Dallas Goedert also being a good playmaker while leaning on that offensive line. And this 49ers linebacking core, though, if there's one defense and linebacking core to halt Philadelphia that has the speed to combat what Philadelphia likes to do, it's San Francisco. This defense, this linebacking core, led by the All-Pro Fred Warner. Fred Warner is a certified freak. Fred Warner is a certified real one. Fred Warner is one of one. And he really did have a legacy game against the Dallas Cowboys in the divisional round. No plays better than the play that we're about to show you. But a legacy game for Fred Warner at Levi's Stadium on Sunday against Dallas. He had the interception against Dak Prescott, which was identified by Jimmy Ward, who tipped the ball up into the awaiting arms of Fred Warner, but no plays better than this one right here. Couple of things that I want to keep our eye out for on this play. This is the Fred Warner tracking down CD Lamb play. Couple of things that you want to look for here. The score, it's 9-9. The time, 6:16 left in the third quarter. 3rd and 5 here for Dallas on the San Francisco 40. They're within range or close to range for Brett Maher, even though his brain is scrambled after 4 PAT misses against the Bucs. You see where Fred Warner is here, though. He is showing blitz at the line of scrimmage and in the middle of the line of scrimmage. CD Lamb, who he's going to end up covering, is lined up right here in the slot spot just inside the numbers. Dak Prescott's in the shotgun. He takes the snap. Fred Warner identifies, okay, with our defensive personnel and in this scheme, CD Lamb is my guy. CD Lamb is going to go down the hash here. Fred Warner is going to show the awareness right away to identify this, but then has the speed at that linebacker spot as he checks in at like 230, 240 pounds to then jet upfield and go stride for stride with CD Lamb. Now, the throw from Dak Prescott was a little bit inside, but look at where Warner is here, where CD Lamb is here, and how much ground he has to make up with getting upfield to catch up to CD Lamb. No problem for All-Pro Fred. He did it. Had the pass break up, and here the Cowboys are forced to punt. The game remains tied at 9-9. Then San Francisco, a little bit later, able to go down the field. Christian McCaffrey touchdown. Then later in the game, they salt it away with that field goal make by Robbie Gould, who is still perfect in his NFL postseason career. Fred Warner's going to have to make some plays like that against the Eagles because that offense is certainly legit. As for this 49ers defensive line, let's go back to this here because this is an Eagles team that can really throw the football. They can also run the football. 49ers defensive line is going to have to come to play. It's okay if DeMeco Ryans does dial up the blitz from time to time, but they're going to have to get home with 4 so that they can use their defensive backs and their linebackers back in coverage against this Eagles aerial attack, but also Philadelphia so good at running the football, which brings us to our last point. You saw the Niners defensive line there. How about the Eagles rushing offense against the 49ers rushing defense? Philadelphia, one of the best running teams in the league this year. San Francisco, one of the best teams at stopping the run. Regular season rankings here for DeMeco Ryans' unit. Points per game, they surrendered in the pass-happy, score-fest NFL. Only 16 points per game. Yards per game, number 1. Points per play, number 1. But on the right side of your screen, you'll see how good the Niners were against the ground game. Yards per rush, 3.2. That was second in the NFL. Rushing yards per game, 77.7. And once again, we showed you these numbers a little bit earlier, but this is what Philadelphia is capable of doing when the train starts to get rolling. They ran for nearly 270 yards and more than 6 yards per carry against a Giants defense that had been playing very good ball over the last month or so and put the lockdown on the Minnesota Vikings. This is a star-studded matchup on both sides of the ball. It's one that we're going to continue to preview throughout the week, and it's one that has the makings of potentially being one of the best NFC championship games that we will ever see. And because of that, I want to gauge where you're at, faithful. Who you going with on Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field? PHI for the Eagles, SF for the 49ers. Let us know. And as always, thanks for watching the show.